We're going to be rolling out the field sampling testing manual updates here very soon. The changes were approved on December 7th by Federal Highway, and so that's about a little over a week ago plus. But at some point here in the near future, they'll be put on our website. NDT 84, specific gravity of fine aggregate, that procedure was a complete rewrite, or maybe it was a deconstruct of our procedure. Many of you are aware with some of the issues we've been having out in the field, or in the districts and contractors matching. So we kind of bounced it around a little bit, and we decided to run the procedure according to AASHTO T84. We did a lot of research in the lab and cross testing and side-by-side testing and different materials. And at the end of the day, running this test is, you need to be an expert at running this test. And to be an expert at running this test, you have to run it multiple times, and you have to compare with people that also have experience running this test. So when you see the update come out, you'll see the new procedure included. I'm just going to kind of highlight some of the things that are going to be the same from what you're used to and what are going to be different. We're still going to use the 1,000 milliliter pick. We're comfortable with that. AASHTO requires the 500 milliliter. AASHTO requires a 1,000 gram sample. We're still going to go with the 1,100. There was a process previously, if it was manufactured dust, that we eliminated the -4 + 8 and only tested the material passing the number 8 sieve. According to AASHTO, we're supposed to run it on the fines. We're going to do it that way. We're going to include all the -4, and no matter whether it's natural fines or manufactured fines. AASHTO doesn't require distilled water for the soak, but we're going to still require that. AASHTO allows moisture added to aggregates to get to 6% without doing the pre-soak. We're not going to allow that. We're still not going to allow that. And so these little things that we're kind of pointing out are going to be pointed out in the procedure when you see it. If you're doing this test, we feel like you should have access to the AASHTO. So one of the changes that we've been floating is how we fill the cone with our cup fingers. We've been showing it to everyone and teaching everyone that you fill the cone with your cup fingers, and then you keep the material over the top of the frustum of the cone and do your compaction. So this is a minor change. We're going to still require the filling that way, but we want you to slide your fingers down to the side of the mold to allow the aggregates to naturally slump. So everybody is going to start with the same amount of aggregate on the top of their compaction, depending on how they hold their fingers or the size of their hands or whatever. We don't want to eliminate those discrepancies in the process. Previously, we required the slough to be 25 to 75% of the top of the cone. We've changed it to 50%. I'll get on here a little bit and show you what I'm talking about that. AASHTO requires you to take it as slumped slightly. I think between DOT and industry, we decided that's definitely not what we want. We want to be somewhere in between here. So we're going to kind of leave it as possible. Saturated surface dry sample size, and we're going to have to do a change in our sample test report. Our DOT one, where it's 500 grams, we're going to match AASHTO. AASHTO allows for 500 grams plus or minus 10. So we think this will speed up the process. Getting 500 exact grams is probably, causing us some issues, so we're going to go with that. We're still going to require the 60-minute plus or minus 15 minutes in the water bath. AASHTO doesn't require any time, but they require a certain temperature. So for continuity and less chance for mistakes, we're going to stay with the 60 minutes. The flask calibration, we're still going to use our method. If you're all familiar, if you're doing the test, we fill the pick up to the top and have a known water temperature with our glass plate. We're still going to go with that, so that'll be in our procedure. AASHTO allows for the calibration. There's a line on the flask to fill it to that flask and calibrate it that way. We feel that our method is more accurate. This isn't a real change, but our procedure required a drying time after you take your saturated surface dry material out of the oven. we're sticking with AASHTO. I just wanted to draw it to your attention, and our other procedure had it written differently, but it's still an hour plus or minus a half an hour. So it's still 30 to 90 minutes of cooling time before you weigh it to get your results. And our reporting time is specific gravity numbers is the same, but absorption is to the 100th of a percent. AASHTO requires to the 10th of a percent. Here's our cone. When you fill your cone, if everybody's seen Monty run it, he holds his fingers up here and overflows the cone. And then he starts his compaction. So now when you get to that point, you just slide your fingers down and allow the material to slough. That's kind of a major change. We did contact AASHTO on that because the way it's written in AASHTO, it's a little ambiguous. It doesn't say you're supposed to remove your fingers or leave them there. We just feel it's for continuity purposes, it's better to not leave your fingers there. 50% of the cone. So if you look at your cone, the 50% slough is approximately the size of the face, the diameter of your drop hammer. Does that mean it has to be circular? No. It also can be 50% sloughed on the side for you to be there. Because as everyone knows, if you're doing this testing, the crusher dust is almost impossible to get a circular slough. A lot of times it'll slough off the side. So, but we still want to make sure that it sloughs at least 50% of the surface area of the top of this cone.
While you got the cone and the tamper there, you might, and again, this only applies hopefully to those people doing mixed designs and possibly aggregate production for tracking that for mixed design purposes, for proposed mixed design purposes, is the drop of the tamper, the 1/10 of an inch. And that's, you know, I think that's probably led to some of our variability. You get in a hurry sometimes, and, you know, that's not much of a drop, and you're repeating it across the full face of the cone. So, you know, if you're having troubles correlating in, sometimes that's the issue is, you know, yep. Your 1/10 of an inch might be my 1/4 of an inch because I haven't done it as much. And
well, it's funny you bring it up because that really is, you know, the amount it's dried, how it's dried back, and how people are adjusting their tamping drop is our two major problems. And so, yeah, 2/10 of an inch is not much.
And it's a gravity drop too. So, right. I mean, you just leave your finger on there too long as you're dropping it, because most people that have done it, and that doesn't include me, is that you want gravity to do the work. I mean, there's a specific weight for that tamping rod, and it's easy to kind of fall in when you're just doing a 1/10 of an inch where you leave your finger on too long, and now you're compacting it like a gyratory mold, not letting hammer weight or the tamper weight itself do the compaction.
So when we, you know, it's a good point, and what we've done in our lab is we've wrapped masking tape around the shaft of the tamping rod, and this allows for Monty and Matt or whoever's doing the specific gravity testing to always know that they're not slipping and they're continually dropping it, and they're not just like not, you know, it's easier for them to adjust their heights based on however long, you know, when you start with your first tamp, it's really loose and then it tightens up and gets more compacted. So you have to kind of adjust it accordingly. And so they found that putting tape around their hammer helps them adjust that tamping height much more easy. So just kind of one of our little tricks that we use in our lab. We also put the tape on our cone to help lift it straight up so it doesn't slip and affect the cone and hitting the, you know, causing it to slump sooner. So we're always trying to make sure that we're keeping things as straight as possible without disturbing the sample.